What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So we're taking a look at the open beta for Payday 3 here on the Steam Deck and the ROG Ally, and performance is very, well, it's not great right now, but I think they're probably more testing their servers and connection and everything, stress testing more than anything else, so hopefully it will be better when it launches. Let's start with the Steam Deck here, and if you try to launch the game just straight up or with any Proton compatibility layer, you will get the error for the Microsoft Visual C++ runtime that is required and not installed. Now, this is something you're gonna have to fix by going into the desktop mode. So we're gonna switch to desktop, and we'll fix that over there. All right, so now that we're on our desktop, we'll just go over here to our Discover tab on the bottom for our Software Center. We'll bring that up, and you can just search for Proton Tricks. And I don't have my keyboard attached, unfortunately, but we'll Steam button X here for the on-screen keyboard, and we'll do Proton Tricks. I'll fast forward this a little bit here, but once you get that in there and search for it, it should pop up for you. And then once you do, kind of popped up on the top there we go. Once we have that up, it's going to bring up the Proton Tricks to install here. So I'm going to go over and do an install on the Steam Deck. It'll be pretty quick, and then we'll be able to launch Proton Tricks and install that Microsoft C++. So we're going to launch Proton Tricks here. Now you'll find Payday 3 Beta, so you can double click that or highlight it and click OK. And then once we do that, it's going to bring up our next section, and that's going to be here where we can select the default line prefix. So I'm going to click OK for that. And then we're going to want to install a Windows DLL or component. So I'll highlight that, click OK. And then we'll get a big list of stuff to install here. I'm going to scroll way down until we get to this Visual C++ that we're looking for 2015 to 2022. I'll click OK, and then we'll get two little installs for that, just like we would over on a Windows PC. So I'll go ahead and agree here. We'll click install. These are really quick. They don't take up very much space. We can close that, and then if you wait just a second, it'll pull up another one. We'll agree to this one and install that. And then that'll be it. This will get us past that launch issue with no need to force any different type of compatibility layers. So I'll go ahead and get closed out of this. We don't need to do anything else in here. I'm going to go ahead and restart the Steam Deck or shut it down and power back up into handheld mode. All right, now that we're back into handheld mode, we go to properties. No need to force any compatibility, so I've left that alone. We can launch the game now. I'll let this go in real time without cutting, and then we'll be able to see that it actually works and launches us in right away this time. And I've gone in and out numerous times with testing. I've played about 3 hours just messing around, and it's worked really, really well. We are borderless, 800p here, unlimited on frame rate, no VSync, and motion blur off, depth of field off, and all the graphic settings are set to low to see how this is going to run here. And we'll do the same thing over on the Ally for settings. I do want to mention that both platforms have a long time for like loading in the textures and getting everything ready to go. So when you first get started on this map and you're playing, give it a little bit of time to settle in, start moving around, and it'll eventually level out. But even at that, performance really is kind of all over the place. The game certainly needs some work. It is pushing our GPU, luckily 99% on the Steam Deck here, but over on Ally you'll see it's quite a different story. We do have some areas where the CPU has trouble keeping up as well, and pushing that here. So it is interesting. Outside without a lot of NPCs around, you can get a little bit higher frame rate here. But what happens is the farther you go into this mission and you start getting into the combat, even indoors, you really do dip down into the 20s, sometimes the low 20s, and then it'll bounce back up into the 30s again. And you could lock this down to 30 FPS. I don't have that footage in here, but I did play that way a little bit here in handheld mode just to test it out. And it doesn't stop any of the times that it goes below 30. All of those still happen, but it does make it feel a little bit less bad because you might not go from 37 to 25 all of a sudden where it messes up your aim. So there is that, but it still isn't holding like a steady 30 FPS, and you certainly can't get higher than that in this game. This is pretty much what you're stuck with, and you'll see a lot of dips down into the 20s, and this isn't even a worse spot. When we get outside more towards the end of the mission, there's more drawing distance and graphics and everything, of course, and NPCs are going to be coming along, and so this just doesn't even run quite as well as the inside. It's not that the game is completely unplayable, but it certainly needs some work if we're going to get a 30 FPS or above experience here on the Steam Deck. And yeah, it's just a little bit rough. And of course we are in matchmaking and online only, and There are things that can affect performance when it comes to the online connectivity and all of that. But yeah, it's just a lot of times of really staying under 30, dipping under 30. If the frame rate stays consistent, I can still aim decently enough, but it's when I get those bigger dips down and back up that I kind of lose control of things. But for the most part, this is what you're looking at. 30s, oftentimes 20s here for the beta. I'm not going to judge the game just off of beta. I know they're more stress testing the networks and stuff this weekend, and hopefully performance when the game actually comes out can be smoothed out and they can fix some of the issues that the game's having here on the Steam Deck and other platforms too. It's stuttery on my local PC with a 3060 as well. Now let's jump over and take a look at the ROG Ally. It'll start off at 30 watts, but it's 25 watt handheld and it'll settle down here in a few minutes, but we're full screen, 1080p, unlimited, VSync off, no motion blur, no depth of field, low settings. This is the same we had over on Steam Deck except for the resolution and the borderless. And yeah, performance is pretty rough over on the Ally at 1080p. Really 720p is not great either. We'll take a look at both, but even at the boosted 29-30 watts here before it settles down to 25, things are a bit hard to run out here. And of course, the more NPCs and stuff around, the worse it is. The thing with the ROG Ally is I tried every VRAM setting, I tried medium, high settings, I tried a lot of different things that I didn't bother recording just to see what performance was like, because it was so rough here on low, even 15 FPS right there, and we never boosted the GPU up to higher usage. I never got the CPU side of things to go higher, and I could never get this to feel right and run the way that I thought it should be here on the Ally at both 1080 or 720. So just like this area here, switching over to 720p, yeah, it does improve frame rate a little bit. GPU usage goes down about 10% and we gain a little, but this just isn't quite right and how it should really be running here. And again, I did try that with all the different VRAM and different graphics options and things like that as well. So there's definitely issues, and hopefully by the time the game comes out, just the game itself being patched and hopefully optimized a bit, maybe there's issues with using the CPU or using the RAM or that type of thing, that it will be improved. And maybe we'll also get some more driver updates from ASUS also, like they did for Starfield, which made a big difference. So there's definitely room for improvement. And I, again, just like I said during the Steam Deck part, I wouldn't judge the game on its beta weekend, all of its performance. We do have areas out here where we did get some full GPU usage and a little bit of decent performance at 1080 here. A little bit more comparable to what I thought it might be at 1080, but even that didn't really hold the way I thought it would as we crash down into the 20s as more cops show up and NPCs come in and that type of thing. And so there's just some utilization issues there probably, and some other things regardless of the wattage and stuff. And even this area here gets a little bit crazy, and we really do dip in that FPS again, even on low here. Similar thing with other settings. The interesting thing is raising settings doesn't raise the GPU usage for me, but it does lower the frame rate. Switching over to 720p here, you'll see very similar FPS. It boosts for just a minute there, like it's gonna do better, and then it gets a little crazy here and falls apart as well. So just some interesting things happening that I thought I would point out, and it happens on the Steam Deck as well. It seems more pronounced here on the Ally to me, probably because of the expectations that I had of how the game should really be running over here and how different it seems to be. But again, I think hopefully anyway, by the time the game actually comes out, between maybe some driver updates and stuff like that, definitely updates to the game, a lot of this could be smoothed out. I know they're more testing, you know, the service and the connection and all of that this weekend, stress testing and getting ready for launch, but I thought it would be fun to take a look at performance for these platforms anyway and see how the game's coming along. But yeah, anyways, I'm gonna end it there. Thanks a lot for coming to check out the video as always. Let me know if you guys have checked out the Payday 3 beta and how it's running for you down in the comments. All right, thanks again for coming to watch, guys. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next one.